Hello, Soto Nation. Super T, is common law marriage dumb? Why is common law marriage dumb? Can you tell me why? I'm very curious. Hi, Virtuous One. How are you? Hi, J Rome. Yes, Super T, expound. Why is common law marriage dumb? We're going to get into it. We're actually going to get into this discussion because a lot of people uh, wonder about common law marriage. Hi, O'Shea. They look um, they look to common law marriage as an alternative to going to the government for marriage. And so I really want to talk about the reality of common law marriage, the states where it is legal, the states where it is not legal, but where they will recognize a common law marriage from another state. I also want to go into other options for people who don't live in states where common law marriage is legal. And I want to look at each of those states. There aren't many, there are only 8 out of 50 states where common law marriage is legal. I want to look at all 8 of those states, and I want to really talk about how it looks in each state, because common law marriage is not universal. It's not living 7 years with somebody. It really varies. It varies from, unless somebody dies, the state will recognize a common law marriage, but they won't do it while you're living, all the way to common law marriage is exactly like legal marriage, including that you have to go to the court to have it dissolved. So the range of common law marriage, legally speaking, is huge. And so we're going to have a real conversation because I feel a lot of people are misinformed. And so this should be very interesting to those of you who are interested in common law marriage. And for those of you who really feel that there are a lot of legal traps, especially for men, to traditional marriage. You may find common law marriage where you live to be an option. You may find that common law marriage will actually bind you in the same way as legal marriage without an actual benefit for it being common law. And outside of that, we'll just look at what the difference is between going to the government for permission to be married and choosing to just have a civil union or civil sanctioned marriage, a common law marriage between you and your spouse. So Super T said, that's easy. If you allow someone who has nothing into your home and you share your bills with them, they are entitled to that same living standard after you break up. I don't quite follow you. I'm not sure what you mean. You mean like if your wife is a stay-at-home mother or something like that? I don't know. If you choose a partner that has nothing, then I would suppose you're comfortable that your partner has nothing. All women don't have nothing, so I don't know. All men don't have nothing, so I don't know. I don't follow your train of thought. Elite Class Trucking said, men, stop putting yourself in a position to give women access to your resources. This is interesting. And actually, in the couple of states where common law marriage is only recognized in the event of the death of one of the spouses, then that might be preferable for people who have that feeling. Like, I want to feel protected while we're living. However, if I were to pass away in our old age, I wouldn't want to see the woman or the man that I love on the street because they don't have the ability to stay in our home. Or, I wouldn't want to see them, lose, let's say if you guys have a joint bank account, assets or anything like that. So it allows you the freedom during life, but you can still protect the person that you love after you die. So there are a variety of types of common law marriage. And so that's why I want to discuss them here as an alternative and as something different than state marriage, where you go to the state and the government to ask them and request that they allow you to marry somebody. Hi, Paul. Super T, in common law marriages, depending on where you are, the government has nothing to do with it. So the whole point of a common law marriage is that the government has nothing to do with it. But there are some states where the government will have something to do with it. So that's why we're going to have the conversation today. We're going to talk about what the differences are. Well, Super T, if you never said all, that's fine. Here's the thing. If you choose a spouse or a partner who has nothing, that is your choice. And so you can't really, I mean, I don't know. Everybody chooses a different type of person. People normally marry individuals in their own income bracket. That's how most of us marry. And most people don't have significant assets to worry about. So sometimes I find it interesting people who aren't wealthy talking about losing things they don't have. You know, if you don't have assets, then it doesn't matter, right? I think a lot of these things don't concern most people because they don't have significant amount of wealth to lose to somebody. Um, Furniture and, you know, a couple $1,000s in the bank account, stuff like that. A home, if it's in your name, you know what I mean? Like things like that, I think are what normal people have. And so I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people have these discussions from a standpoint like all of us talking, you know, have $1 million or $800,000 in their bank account. And I just don't think that's the reality for most people. Yes, some states do recognize common law marriage. We're going to talk specifically about those states now. Virtuous one, that's right. People who are just regular people really have nothing to worry about. I think a lot of these conversations are kind of ridiculous conversations. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of the people that engage in them don't have significant assets to talk about protecting. They're not individuals who would need a prenuptial or, you know, really have any significant assets to protect. So I know that, you know, if 500 people get in a room and there's an argument over, I don't want to, you know, anybody to come after my money, those 500 people aren't wealthy or don't have significant assets. So it's just kind of a silly argument people are making to have something to say. I think that there is a contractual side to unions and then there's not. So I do want to get into it. You guys are actually up there. But I'm going to be looking at resources here in the description box. I have provided all resources for those people that are interesting. This series is going to be in 3 parts. I'm reading my parts so I don't forget. This part will cover states where common law marriage is legal and how it is legal in those states, if there are any catches. Part 2 will cover states where common law marriage is not allowed, but where they are legally recognized. And part 3 will cover all the other states. I found it really interesting. In some states, gay people can get married, but they won't recognize common law marriage. I just found that like very fascinating that they would take a homosexual civil union, but you can do common law marriage. So in my research for this, I was actually pretty surprised. So let's see. Also, another misconception about common law marriage is that you have to be living with somebody for a certain amount of time for it to be valid. That's not the case in most states, actually, that recognize common law marriage. So yeah, that's why we're going to talk about it today, because I feel like a lot of people have beliefs and assumptions about common law marriage that are not actually rooted in fact. And so that's one of the reasons I want to have this conversation. Hi, Panther Knowledge. Okay. So let's get into it. So the first state I want to talk about is Utah. Utah has a rather interesting common law marriage law. They actually don't have common law marriage. So let's talk about what Utah does offer. And I don't really understand why they offer this. It's kind of bizarre because in a way they'll say Utah doesn't recognize common law marriage, but you can go to the court. And I think this is very important for people who live in states like this. In Utah, there is no common law marriage, but if you are cohabitating with a person for long enough, and you guys have intermingled assets for long enough, they can take you to court and they can petition the court to recognize your relationship as a marriage if you separate. So this is very important for those of y'all who live in Utah, that you understand that. If the court approves, you're going to be considered legally married as long as a set of conditions are met. And this is the evidence. And if you're looking in Utah to either protect yourself from being entrapped in a common law marriage, or to engage in something that could be recognized as a common law marriage, again, it's not really common law in Utah. They will recognize your relationship as something similar to a common law marriage if you meet certain conditions, okay? And it will essentially change your non-marital relationship into a legal marriage, meaning a marriage sanctioned by the government. You have to be of legal age. You have to be legally capable to solemnize a marriage, like you're not cousins or something like that. You have to have lived together, and you have to behave as though you're married. You also have to present yourself to the public as if you are married. So again, Utah is a situation where technically they do not allow common law marriage, but if all those things are in place, you could go to the court and say, we want to be recognized as married. You could go to the court, let's say if you're with somebody for 40 or 50 years, 20, 30 years, and somebody passes away, you could go to the court and say, I want my relationship with this person recognized as a marriage so that I can be sure I can protect our joint assets. And so Utah is one of those states. So again, a tricky state. Technically, there's no common law marriage there. However, they will recognize long-term relationships or relationships where somebody lives in the home with you as a marriage if certain conditions are met, and they will make them legal in the eyes of the state. So that is something that is very interesting. And there are other states like this. So if you live in a state where there is no common law marriage and you're really, really not wanting to be married to somebody, you should strongly consider the laws of your state, because many states are like Utah, where technically there is no common law marriage, but you can ask that your relationship be recognized as a marriage. So there are no protections in some states. If you live with a woman or you live with a man, and you guys cohabitate and you are going about life like a married couple without the ring or the paperwork, in some states there are no protections saying that person, the other party, cannot go into court and ask that the marriage or that the relationship be recognized as a marriage. So I think this is some important information that people should have. Thank you, Little Miss Chocolate. I agree, Warwick. I think if a person doesn't want to get married, don't get married. You know, like, it's your prerogative. Music destination, I'll ban you from my channel. I don't accept trolls here. Okay. So with that said, let's go to the next state. The next state that I want to get into is Texas. Now, y'all know that for a period of time I lived in Texas, and I love Texas for one reason. I didn't like the bugs. I didn't like the ridiculous, disgusting heat mixed with humidity. It was just gross there. And so all those things I hated. I hated their freeway system. There's a list of things I didn't like about Texas. But the one reason I would always consider moving in Texas, and I more than likely will hold property in Texas, is because Texas is one of the most free states in the country, and their common law marriage laws rock. Basically, Texas just does not in any way, shape, or form want to be involved in your life. If you don't want to involve the government in your life in Texas, Texas will not get involved. So if you are a person that just wants the government to leave you alone, move to Texas, okay? Because they're all about that. They don't care what you do. As long as you don't hurt anybody else, Texas is really trying to stay out of your business. Hi, Frantonio. Yeah, you can open carry in Texas. That's why people are so hardcore for Texas that live there with good reason. Like, that's the one thing I give Texas. So let's talk about common law marriage in Texas. Okay. So, common law marriage in Texas is also called marriage without formalities or informal marriage. It is a valid and legal way for a couple to marry in Texas. This comes from Section 2401 of the Texas Family Code. And just to give you the code on, what was it, Utah's law? That was Utah Statute 30-1 4.5. So it's 30-1 through 30-4.5. Texas statute, there are actually two of them, but the first one is section 2.401 of the Texas Family Code. And essentially basically says that if you agree to be married to somebody and that you live in Texas as husband and wife after you make that agreement, and you represent to other people that you're married, you're married. And this is significant because let's say you don't live in a common law marriage state, but you do live in a state where they recognize common law marriage. You could essentially, in Texas, I think you are a resident after, I would have to look this up. I think it's 90 days. So if you hold legal residence, which basically means you just have an address there, technically speaking, you could go to Texas, do all of those things, be legally married there, and then you could reside in your state. If your state accepts other states' common law marriages as valid, and that would allow you to get through the legal marriage loophole and have a common law marriage in a non-common law state, because there are many states that do this. Oregon is a state that does this. There are a lot of Eastern states that do this. So you could live in a state that has no common law marriage, but will definitely recognize. So if you know of a state like Texas where their common law marriage is very simple and straightforward, you could go common law in that state and have it recognized by your current state. So that's just some food for thought, because everybody is not able to pick up and just move to a common law marriage state. But, that is a way to get around that if you are not in a common law marriage state. Hi, Soto Nation. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of construction going on in Texas. Work. There really is. All right. Let's keep going. Getting out of Texas. And I think I could provide some more resources in my comment section, in my my description box for Texas, so I will. Let's go to South Carolina. Okay, so South Carolina is actually one of the few states that has a bona fide acceptance of common law. They're right up there with Texas, because we're going to get into some weird states where it's just the laws are very bizarre, and technically I guess it's common law, but it's like weird stuff. But South Carolina, there are no such shenanigans there. Basically, you can go get a license, right? But again, everybody doesn't want to deal with the government. But if technically you could legally marry in South Carolina, then you can engage in a common law marriage. So people think, and you really need to consider this, people think that just because you live with somebody, you're going to suddenly be common law. And that is just literally not the case. Especially in Texas, and especially in South Carolina. You can live with somebody your whole life in South Carolina, and you will never, ever, ever become a common law spouse. So that's not the case. There are other elements that have to take place, and those elements include the following. They're going to want to see if the person obviously isn't already in a union. if they purport themselves to be married. This is a big thing, y'all. You know, for those of y'all who are trying to skirt and get around marriage, but you know, you want to cohabitate and you'll tell people that's my wife. I know that's really popular now. That's my husband. That's my wife. You'll see that I call my man, I call him my man. But some people like to say that's my husband, that's my wife, and it's not your husband and wife. Be very careful, because you could very well, because you're walking around saying that, get trapped into a situation where you literally can legally be considered that person's husband or wife, even if your state's not common law. South Carolina, it's one of the criteria they use to determine if a couple is common law. And so people have to be careful with that. Sometimes we think we're being slick and we want to satisfy our partner without actually engaging in the marriage. And what you find out is that the slickness is what's going to get you bound. So it's better to just keep it all on the table. South Carolina is one of those states. Keep it on the table. Yeah, living with a person won't necessarily make you common law, but if you carry on like a married person, that will cause your relationship to be able to be recognized as a common law marriage. Specifically in South Carolina, if you share an intent to be married, and if you present yourself to the public as married, your union is considered common law marriage. Also, it works if you are telling people that you are not married, but you are engaged, but you intend to be common law married. It will null your relationship's ability to be recognized as common law marriage. Now, this is really important because for insurance purposes, if you guys want to share medical insurance, for if somebody is injured and goes to the hospital and you want to be able to, let's say, if they are not capable of making the decision and you need to be able to make the decision for them as their wife or as their husband, these things are very important. And I think a lot of times when people are like, marriage, I don't want to share money. It's so much bigger than money. There are other things to consider, especially if you don't have children or if you're of an age where your parents have passed away. You have to think about those things, or at least set in motion other strategies to ensure that your needs are met in those events. So there's like a whole list, and maybe I'll do a video on that, like a list of things you should consider if you're in a long-term relationship and you don't want to be common law and you don't want to be legally married, because there's a whole list of things that you should consider. Thank you, Panther Knowledge. I appreciate that. So what about calling your woman wifey? Frantonio, that could be a slippery slope, because you know the court is not going to know slang, right? And then you're going to have to argue how wifey doesn't mean wife. And a woman might argue, well, if he's calling me wifey, I thought he meant that I was his wife. Do you know what I mean? So for those of you who are really honestly hardcore against getting married, you must consider this, because again, just being in a state that is not common law will not necessarily absolve you from somebody going to a court and saying, I lived with this person, he was calling me his wifey, we had kids, whatever the case is, I want to separate and I want our relationship recognized as a marriage. So, you know, we can't carry on basically as married people and be with anybody with any sense, because they're going to look into state law or get a lawyer who's going to tell them that the state is going to recognize your union as a marriage because you're carrying on like you're in a marriage. Does God recognize common law in marriage? Yes, he does. Remember that in God's eyes, if you have sex with somebody, you're married to them. Remember the woman by the well? Do you know what I'm saying? He said that she had had 7 husbands, right? Didn't he say 7? And the one that she was with now was not her husband. So, you know, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There are lots of scriptures in the Bible. We could just do a whole nother subject on that. But yes, I think God knows our hearts. Like at the end of the day, even if you don't go to the state, you know, the Bible says, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Going to the government doesn't matter in God's eyes. Going to the government is not something anybody needs to do to be married. That is why there are civil things and common law things and I can't say the word, inalienable rights that we all have as human beings. When you deal with the state, that's a totally different thing, okay? So we have to separate our personal freedoms from state provided rights and benefits. So that's where common law marriage and legal marriage verge. Legal marriages, I've gone to the state, so now the state has authority to make decisions in my relationship with this other person because they approved and they created the laws that govern my union. Common law marriage is I want nothing to do with the government. I have simply chosen to enter into a union of marriage with this person outside of governmental permission, structure, laws, or any of that. So when we say states recognize common law marriage, what we're really talking about is medical insurance, the right to make a decision if something happens with that person, the right to represent them, protection in court if somebody goes to court, not having to testify against them. We're talking about those sorts of protections when we're talking about common law marriage. That is what we're talking about. Yes, it can also extend into if a person passes away, making sure that nobody comes for your assets and tries to take everything from your lifelong partner. It extends to those things too. It extends to making sure that your children can be direct beneficiaries and that there are protections there. So, there are a lot of things to consider and a lot of benefits. That's why the gays fought for it so hard. A lot of benefits to being married. So let's go. QT1, I actually answered that. Again, a legal marriage under the state and what the church or God recognizes are not the same. So you can marry a person that can be recognized by the church. Actually, I will say, if you're doing common law marriage, if you have a little ceremony, you can do that. And that will actually help establish that you have a common law marriage. People are encouraged to take pictures, encouraged to be open about the fact that they are married. All of those things come into place. That's why it's a common law marriage. You don't have to go to the state to be married, just like you don't have to have a birth certificate or a social security card. Like, there are things that we voluntarily do. We keep voluntarily going to the government to interact with the government. That's why the police have something called consensual contact. Do you know what consensual contact is? It's when a police officer has no reason to talk to you, but they approach you and go, "Hi, so-and-so," or "What are you doing around here?" Or "Can I help you?" That's called consensual contact. You can consensually make contact with the government. Now, for the police, I could do a whole video on consensual contact with the police. With the police, consensual contact can turn into you being detained, and being detained can turn into you being arrested. And so the best thing is to never engage in consensual contact with the police, and you can do that legally. But once you consent to contact, then you run the risk of being detained, then you run the risk of being arrested. Dealing with the government is the same thing. Once you consent to going to the government to beg them to allow you to be in a legal marriage, you've consented to the laws regarding legal marriage. You've consented to the divorce laws regarding legal marriage, which is why people look at common law marriage, which is natural marriage. That is the way marriage always was before the government offered a legal option, right? That's why you have civil arrest, right? You can arrest. Right now, I could arrest somebody. If I see a crime being committed, I could arrest somebody, and then I could contact the police, the government's arm, and I could have them come and they would take the person to jail. I could do a video on that too. So what people don't recognize is we live in a society where there are civil laws, laws of the land, common laws that we have and rights we have because we are free people. And then there are you engaging with government authority, waiving your free rights as a person and putting yourself under the jurisdiction of the government. So that's why we're having this conversation about common law marriage, because there are a number of things that we do in life. Simply because we don't recognize that we have the option to do things in a civil way that doesn't involve legal and government authority. So that's exactly why I'm going over this topic. And I think I will do those videos on consensual contact with the police. Thank you. That might be one of my lives today. I might do those videos on civil arrest versus governmental arrest. Like, we have to understand that you are a free person. Okay. You don't need the government's permission. You don't need the government to validate you. You don't. We have protections as free people, but I don't think people realize that. I think that people very literally believe that the government is in charge of them, but no, you're in charge of the government. And we have to have an understanding about how this system works. You acquiesce and you petition. That's what an application is. I am petitioning to be underneath your laws and regulations, right? When you apply for a license, you're petitioning to be under the laws and regulations of, the codes of people who carry that license. That's why if the police say, "Can I see your license?" and you're walking, you have to give it to them because it's government property, right? So you have to acquiesce to the law of the little thing that you ask the government for. And marriage is no different. Marriage is absolutely no different. And I really want here on my channel to get people to understand the distinction between acting as a free individual in our country and acting as a government agent, right? As a subject to legal authority. There are different ways that we behave, and that's why I hesitate a lot of times when people ask me questions. I hesitate to answer them because you have to have a deeper understanding of this thing. And it's hard to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't comprehend that difference, but I'm going to try to engage in that dialogue with you guys. And like I said, in my description box, I'm providing the government resources for this because I don't talk on things that are not true. Marcus F. said, "I've been with the same woman for 12 years without a legal contract. It is not needed. I prefer to keep the state and church out of my life." And that's fine, Marcus. Depending on the state that you're in, your union would be recognized as a common law marriage. It's very well possible. I mean, that happens. So that is for the state of South Carolina. Essentially, if you're filing tax returns together, if you've made that person a beneficiary on any of your medical stuff or anything like that, if they're, insured, if you guys are sharing insurance, if you go about in the world perpetuating yourself as married people, if you say that you have the intent to engage in a marriage with somebody, all of those things will legally bind you in the state of South Carolina into a common law marriage. And so that's something that you should know. Let's go ahead and get into common law marriage in New Hampshire. Okay. So New Hampshire is one of those states where if you are in a common law marriage, for those of you who are looking to get into a common law marriage, because some people do this, let's just be honest. Some people are like, I want to do a common law marriage because I think that this is somehow going to protect me from the legal ramifications that come with a legal marriage, being drugged into court, having somebody dig in my assets, all that stuff. Well, New Hampshire will not be the state for you because New Hampshire common law marriage are recognized and authored just like legal government sanctioned marriages. So that is something to consider. Again, there are not copious amounts of loopholes to this life. So you really have to understand where you are and how things roll by in that state. And let's look at what they're looking for. So technically, there's no common law marriage in the state of New Hampshire for tax benefit, right? And this is another reason that people look and lean toward marriage is that there's a tax benefit to that, right? There are no such protections in New Hampshire, but what there are is that if you try to leave the person, they will recognize, if you try to leave the person, or more specifically, let's say if the person dies, they will recognize the union as a common law marriage. So New Hampshire is another one of those odd states where, technically speaking, right? Technically speaking, they will not recognize a common law marriage. This is one of those states where, like I said, many of you live in states where common law marriage is not legal, but you will be considered somebody's husband or wife under certain conditions. In New Hampshire, it's one of those states. So if you are living with somebody and you pass away and they've been living with you for at least 3 years, that union is going to be recognized as a marriage by the state of New Hampshire. Just some food for thought, people. Just some food for thought. So let's go on to Montana, okay? Montana does recognize common law marriage. They see it as a marriage that is just formed without a license from the state. There are 3 elements that you have to have in the state of Montana to be considered common law. First of all, you have to be competent to enter the marriage. This is important because they don't want people taking advantage, let's say, of a mentally retarded person or something like that and saying they agreed to be in this marriage. Or a person who is very ill or, anything like that. So you have to be mentally competent, and both parties have to be of the marital age of the state. They also cannot already be married, obviously. Number 2, now this is funny. I didn't mention this in Texas. In Texas recognizes the most recent marriage. Okay, so if it comes in a question, let's say somebody's shady and they do marry 2 or 3 people, because I actually, like in my real life, I know people who have been married to more than one person at once. Texas will recognize the newest marriage. In the state of Montana, they don't do that. In the state of Montana, you just can't be married. But I just think, for those of you, again, who want to play, games with the system, if you're already married and you get married again, some states will recognize your most recent marriage. So keep that in mind. Like, people play a lot of games in this life. So, again, a lot of these shenanigans we get up to could end up binding you to a person permanently. Number 2, you have to enter into the marriage by mutual consent. And so again, we're talking about the state of Montana, right? Are we talking about the state of Montana? Yes, we are. And 3, you have to confirm the marriage by cohabitation and public repute. And so this comes back to what I was saying about so many places in the United States. If you are cohabitating with somebody and if you are carrying on like you are married, you are going to enter into a common law marriage in many states. Even if common law marriage is not legal there, you could put yourself in a position where somebody can petition the court to recognize that you were married. And states will do it. States will do it. So keep that in mind. So let's keep going. Let's go to the state of Kansas. So in Kansas, a common law marriage is a marriage by agreement of the 2 persons without any formal ceremony or license. A common law marriage will be recognized in the state of Kansas if the couple considers themselves to be married and publicly holds themselves out to be married, and if they meet the legal requirements for marriage. So if they were going to apply for a license, they would be people who would be eligible. So are we seeing a pattern here? Once a common law marriage is established in the state of Texas, though, the couple must get a court-ordered divorce to terminate the marriage. So this is a consideration for people in Kansas. You can be in a common law marriage, but if you want to leave that common law marriage, you place yourself under the jurisdiction of the Texas legislator. So you need to understand that if you are in a state that's like that. And again, see the pattern here. You are living with somebody, you are publicly going around and professing to be married to them. Both in states that allow common law marriage and states that do not normally recognize common law marriage, that can bind you to a person. So that means that you can be common law in a state with common law marriage, or a person can petition the court to recognize that there was a marriage and say that you're defrauding them. So a lot of you guys that are against marriage, keep that in mind. Like, Somebody could pull you into court and say you are defrauding them, that this was essentially a marriage, you guys are separating, and they want to recognize that you guys are involved in a marriage. So, men and women both have to look out for that. I don't see why you guys have to fight in the comment section over this. Because the people who want to get married should get married. And the people who don't want to get married, y'all don't get married. It's very simple. Very, very simple. Let's go to Iowa. Okay. In Iowa, to prove the existence of a lawful common law marriage, there must be substantial evidence of an intent, an agreement to be married, continuous cohabitation, and a public declaration that the person is your husband and wife, right? So, yeah, there you go. Frantonio Michaels, what does having a present marriage agreement as a requirement in Kansas mean? It means that you are, if you mean in the common law sense, it means that you are in agreement that you intend to be married to this person. So that's essentially what it means if you mean in the common law sense. And that's pretty much consistent across the board. We're hearing it again here in Iowa. You're living together, you're purporting this person to be your wife or your husband, and yeah. And you're I mean, that's basically it, right? You're living together and you're carrying on like spouses. The people around you believe that you're married. Again, I always encourage people who are entering a common law union, have a little ceremony. Don't waste money on a ceremony, y'all. Don't do that. Like, please, please. Don't waste money on a ceremony, but you can definitely still, hold on, there's something I need to do on my computer. You can definitely still have a small ceremony simply for the purpose of taking pictures, because those are things that will establish your common law marriage. But make no mistake, you don't necessarily have to have that aspect to be engaged in a common law marriage. So that is something to consider. I have two videos that I meant to push live yesterday that I did not push live. But I'm going to push them live today, y'all. I'm going to push them live while we're here talking to each other, because I meant to do it right before I came onto my live stream, but I didn't do it. I just didn't do it. I did a 5 facts about me and 5 of the most top asked questions regarding me on YouTube. So I thought that one was pretty interesting, but I was really tired, y'all. I was yawning and everything. Very unprofessional. But that's real life. I take you guys with me for real life. I really do. So let's get to it. Oh, are we green for the debate later? Okay. Can you remind me what time it is? It's at 6 o'clock my time, right? Oh, I just pushed them live, Marcus. I just did it right here. I just forgot to do it before I came on camera. So I just did it now. So let's see. But they're nothing exciting. One thing that I put up was, remember when I said, so I'm in a weird space right now where I have a lot of positive things going on, right? I have just moved. I've just solidified everything with my man. My daughters are really happy and acclimating well to this environment. I'm able to collaborate and do more things with people on YouTube. And so all of these really positive things are happening in my life right now. I mean, the list is just so long, y'all. I cannot even express it. Even like with you guys are so wonderful. Like, I appreciate and value all of you. You guys don't know. I was talking to my man about this. I was like, I try to remember their names. If they tell me something personal about their lives, I try to remember that so that I can ask about it when I see them. Like, how's your child? Or, what's up with you? Or, how's your school going? We have so many interesting people in this community. We have people with families. We have people that are going out for degrees. We have a young man that's working on coding. Like, I try to remember those things about you guys. I try to reply to everybody's comments. I've started to use my community tab so that I can communicate fun things with you guys from my life and do polls and contests and things like that. So all of these positive things are going on. And in the midst of the positive things that are going on, I think because I try to just keep it, I try to keep things positive, and I try not to have negative energy on my channel. Something that's happening is that people are starting to attack me. And what they're attacking is how I look and how I present myself on camera. And although you guys know my channel, you guys know that I'm really cool and I'm copacetic. Actually, this morning, let me tell you, this morning I got an email because I did O'Shea's channel, and big up to O'Shea because he actually came and supported this live stream today. So I appreciate that. I was a headliner on O'Shea's show, which I've never been. He did an interview with me once, but that was kind of like my first one-on-one, and it was on sex before marriage. And everybody knows I was not a virgin before I got married, but I do feel that it's better to be a virgin before you get married. That's what I teach my children, and that's, what I purport, right? And so, anyway, so I did it. It's the manosphere. We know how the manosphere is, but I love the people there. I don't mind that I don't have to agree with everybody. But this morning I woke up to an email, and I won't say who the YouTuber was, but this morning I woke up to an email that was very negative. This is a person who I've worked with in the past, and I've never been negative toward or anything like that. And I woke up to an email that was pretty negative. And I addressed the email, and I just was like, I'm not with this. Like, that I don't vibe that way. I'm not a negative person. Don't attack my physical appearance. He's basically saying because I have big breasts, I don't have the right to sit there and talk about chastity and I wasn't even showing any cleavage. I think, let me see if I can pull this up. It's like a little baggy, but that's okay. I was wearing something that was probably like that. But I have big breasts, right? So he was attacking that. He was saying I didn't belong in the manosphere, which I feel like, don't take that up with me. It's not my channel, right? If I get invited somewhere, I'm going to go. Just a very nasty email. And so I was like, look, I don't vibe that way, and I'm not with it. Like, if you don't like how I look, that's not my problem. And don't send me emails like that. Like, this is my professional email, and don't call me beefing. And you weren't even involved in the show, so this is none of your business anyway. I'm cool with both people who were there. So anyway, he tried it again. He made a disparaging remark for me, and I just shut it down. I just was like, I want you to have an excellent day, and I wish you the best. But you please don't email me if you can't respect my wishes. And my wishes are simply that you don't use my personal email address to attack me. Like, if you want to attack me, make a video about me. You know what I mean? But don't come into my personal space with negativity. So that's kind of where I am, you guys, like with this YouTube thing, and with my life. Like, a lot of things are positive that are happening. And that's why I'm doing my documentary. Because the pushback that I'm getting over my physical appearance, y'all remember that video where I was eating candy and I was waiting for my man? People felt that the way I eat candy is very erotic. And I just thought, okay, maybe I am naturally sexy. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. It seems sexy. I don't know. But I just thought, honestly, like, these shenanigans are very silly, right? People sexualized when I was putting together my table. How many of you guys were there for when I put my table together? my kids were there, like everything, like people sexualized that. I think there was in a 6-hour live, because that live was literally damn near 7 hours, and a almost 7-hour live. There was one little, like literally split second of like a little accident that I had, and I apologized for it, and people tried to make it out like the whole live was just like pornography. And I just, I don't know. So what I recognize is, but you know what? But people could say worse. I think honestly, I'm happy that if people talk about me, what they're talking about is that they feel that um, I'm just essentially attractive. Do you know what I'm saying? Sexy or something like that. Like, I guess if that's the worst that people have to say about you, then that's not bad. I think people also don't like that I don't answer questions with yes or no answers. Um, but that's not me, y'all. Y'all see how much I talk. You guys are here with me. You know that I give like wordy answers. I'm verbose, which is like unnecessarily wordy with my answers, but that's just my personality. So I think a lot of times people just take qualms with who I am as an individual, and I think that's fine. But it's interesting because I have a lot of positive things happening, and then I have some negativity trying to like breed up, and I'm just trying to push it down, and I'm trying to take it and use it for something positive. So the thing that I want to do is, like I said, I want to make this documentary. I want to invite other women to come on and talk about what it is like to be a woman who has a very shapely body and how they are perceived. A lot of people will call me dumb, which I'm not stupid, but I have big breasts, so I must be stupid, right? I have big breasts, so why should you listen to me? That's why I did that Carl Reeves thirst trap video, just to make a point. That way I was behaving is how people act like I am all the time. And so I feel like we have to be careful with taking a regular woman and equating her to a streetwalker simply because we live in a society where women are so highly sexualized that it's hard to look at a woman and really, like, I just don't think people are that base. Like, what's coming out of a person's mouth should matter, honestly. Like, a little bit of cleavage shouldn't matter. Breasts shouldn't matter. A big butt shouldn't matter. It's just a body, and people walk around with their bodies every single day, and you can admire and love them and find them beautiful. And that's good. Like, that's an awesome thing, both men and women. So anyway, I'm off topic. I really am. So let me get back onto the topic. I'm so sorry, y'all. Let me get back onto the topic that we're doing. But yeah, I guess I thought about it because a lot of good things are happening to me right now. But this little negative thing that's trying to come up, yeah, we're going to murder it. We're going to murder the negativity. We're not going to give it any air. So, thank you, Carl. That was nice. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I'm not twerking. Yeah, I'm not doing bikini try-on hauls or anything like that, So I can be on here and just be a woman, and yeah, I don't know. But it is what it is. It's fine. It's totally fine. Sir Bach said, but again, Irene, we're freedom. We're free. We're not in captivity. True. And the revolutionary, that could be true, but then modest is subjective, right? So a lot of people would complain that I'm showing this much cleavage, but when I did O'Shea's broadcast last night, I was showing even less, and people still said I was being showy. So I think at some point, other people have to accept accountability for their own thoughts and actions. Everything isn't the woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people, their mind goes to a sexual place because that's how they function. And even other women, will say, well, she knows what she's doing. And one of the videos I pushed live, I used a clip of a woman I want to interview where she says, oh, look at her. Look at what she's wearing. Look at how she's standing. She must be a hoe. That's how people view women. Look at her. Look at how she's standing. Look at what she's wearing. Is she sleeping around? No. What is she doing? She's just existing. She's just holding a conversation. She just walked into the room. How can you call somebody a hoe? In my case, you ate a piece of candy. You put together a table. But oh no, she's a hoe. If I were, 300 pounds and did the same table, video, nobody would call me a hoe. They would probably be like, damn, I wish she would put on more clothes, but they wouldn't call me a hoe. Do you know what I mean? So I opened up that video with My Body Is Not an Apology, which is a book I encourage you guys all to get. And it's a spoken word at the beginning of my video where she talks about how our bodies are not apologies, whether they be fat, whether they be curvy, whether they be skinny, whether they be male, whether they be female, period. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, should women be modest? Absolutely. Modesty is subjective for sure. A high cut shirt wouldn't be enough for some people. Some people might feel because I'm busty, I also need to wear something loose. Some people might feel I need to be in a full on burqa, but we're going to stop attacking women because they look sexual to us or because we feel, they're intentionally showing that they're curvy. Like that part we need to stop. You guys listen to my content. You guys sit here with me. I'm not up here talking about anything raunch. I never have been that person. So, you know what I mean? We have to just do better. Hoe is way too general. Yeah, well, I was literally called a whore. A whore, right. I was like, well, dang, that's pretty extreme. You know what I mean? So yeah, so this morning, that's why I'm bringing it up. Like this morning, it happened to me again, where somebody commented on my breasts, had the nerve to email me and be like, your breasts are an impediment to anything you say. I was like, for real? Because this is part of my body. So you mean if I don't talk just with I'm trying to do it. If I don't talk like this all the time, then I need to be discounted because the body that I have is a problem. Really stupid. So let's go ahead and go to the next place. We did Iowa. And so we are on the last state, and that is Colorado. And that's the last state I'm going to touch on today. To be common law in Colorado, same story, right? Cohabitate, mutually agree that you're married, and openly hold yourselves out to the public as married. Now, an agreement doesn't have to be an expressed agreement. Y'all, it does not have to be you signed a paper with her or you guys had a whole conversation. It could be, and let me go there because I don't want to get it wrong. It could be an agreement by action as well. So I guess the general feeling that I want to just wrap up this whole common law situation with is that we want to make an attempt to separate ourselves from legal authority in every area of our life that we can. I'm not here to argue the marriage debate. I think Alan Curry and I are going to be doing a build on that. He's going to be arguing against marriage. I'm going to be arguing for marriage. So I'm excited for that. He gave me some things he wants me to research. And so I'm going to look into his positions and things like that, which is very fair of him too, because he could have just let me go in blind, but he's like, look into all this so that you know what I'm about. So he's going to give me some things to research on him. And when I'm prepared and he's free, we're going to do that build. So I'm not arguing for or against marriage. I'm for marriage because I'm for the nuclear family. I think it's very important in the community that we have a healthy nuclear family. But I do also think that it's important that we learn the difference between engaging the government and having the government involved in our private lives and not engaging the government and making decisions as free people. And so that's why I put out these videos on Social Security. That's why I put out these videos on common law marriage. That's why I'm going to touch on voluntary consent to speak with the police and things like that. I'm going to touch on these videos and I'm going to provide you guys the laws. Like I said, if you go to my description box, my links are legit. I don't come on here and just talk about stuff. When it comes to legalities like this, I want to make sure I'm giving true information, that I give you guys the power to go and look at those government sites and vet this stuff for yourself. But we have to start to, as a people, understand that there is a separation from you as a free person, right? You as a free person and the government. And I think a lot of people aren't getting that separation, and then that is problematic. Uh-oh, I dropped my phone. So that's going to be pretty much this live. I'm going to go to the chat, and if you guys have something you want to talk about before I go, then let me know. If it doesn't seem like y'all have anything you want to get into, then I'll let you go now. So this could just be a free-for-all at the end of this. And then make sure you guys check out the 2 videos I uploaded. One of them, for y'all that have been on my channel for a while, is not going to probably interest you. It's just that I wanted to share my story. And I wanted to share my story before I interviewed other women on their stories, right? So feel free to pass the word around YouTube that I'm looking for curvy women to come and talk about what it is like living in their beautiful bodies. And I think I'm really excited about this documentary. So let's see. Let's see what y'all are up to in the chat. Oh, I'm way behind in the chat. Oh, you're welcome, Warwick. Thank you so much. Omega Dread said, wait, can't a woman still out of spite go to the government and get all those benefits? Omega, yes. And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about common law marriage. Even if you are in a state that does not recognize common law marriage, you still, if you are really trying to avoid that, have to be careful. Because if you carry on like you're in a marriage, in many states that do not have common law marriage, a woman can go to the court or a man can go to the court and say, this relationship is over, but we've been carrying on as married and I want my marriage to be recognized. And you need to be clear, does your state have, conditions for that? Because I touched on some states now that will recognize it if you petition the court. And there is always the potential for a state to recognize it when you petition the court. You have to really tread lightly in states that allow for civil union between homosexuals, because that precedent can be used by a good lawyer. Again, I don't think this is a concern that most people have. If you don't have significant assets, then, this is a conversation that doesn't matter. Just go with your love. But if your physical assets are very important, these are things to consider. Marcus Love, a lot of people do that. My man and I, that's how we function. Our assets are separate. I will use his card to pay for something if he approves me to, because a lot of times I have to conduct business for him. But our assets are separate. And I think that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. As far as if we do joint business ventures, though, that's something else. And I think that is okay. If you want to build with a person, I think that's okay. But as far as your personal stuff, if you want to keep it personal, sure. You know what I mean? If you don't trust the person to that extent, then that's fine. But this is what I will say. If you will trust a person with your life, like if you're having sex with them, especially unprotected sex with them, if you are comfortable enough to trust them with your life, why not your money? Why would your money be worth more than your life. And this isn't to say give people your money and give them access to your money. This is just to say consider that. I mean, that's how I think about it. When I was choosing my man, I was like, do I trust this man with my little girls? Do I trust this man with me, with my body, with my life? Do I trust him? And so everything else is irrelevant once those things are something you trust a person with. Everything else is a smaller thing to me, but everybody else is different. Like some of us don't place physical possessions above our own bodies. So it just depends. It just depends, y'all. Thank you, Frantonio. Frantonio said, breast and all, Irene is considered one of the good girls in social media terms. Thank you. Because I know social media is pretty raunch. Like, I don't engage, but I know that it's pretty raunch. Well, the revolutionary, you are very loving in your corrections. I will say that, and I appreciate that. Marcus Love, I want fat women too. I want skinny women. I want women of all sizes and shapes in my documentary, because all women suffer from this at some level. It just manifests itself differently depending on what the woman looks like. Do you know what I mean? It's not just trust, it's good financial sense. Perhaps so. Perhaps so. Definitely if they have like student loans they haven't paid or something like that, your taxes and things can be garnished. So that's true. It is pragmatic, Marcus. I will give you. You're right. It is pragmatic to an extent. Even midgets. Well, if a little person it makes herself available for me to interview them, I definitely would, because I'm sure that they face unique challenges as well. Well, Maximum Black, I think they feel that this is what I've been accused of. This is what I was directly accused of. I think people feel that although I make content on politics, things like this, common law marriage, and things like that, the claim is that I don't really care about the content I'm making. I'm just here to look pretty, and I'm going out of my way to look pretty and attractive, and be sexual. And so they are saying, why don't you just be upfront with what you're selling? And I'm like, that's very interesting, because all I do is I basically sit and talk to the camera. Occasionally I'll use my phone and I'll walk around with the camera, but I'm like, so in that sense, it comes to, like I said, this is something that's coming from people who aren't, just YouTubers basically. But it's coming from like different places. And I think it's just an energy. I think it's just the thing to pick on, right? Because I don't talk about super controversial stuff. I mean, I know people try to make my topics controversial. Like if I say be chaste, they try to make that into a controversial topic, not like I'm saying go be a whore and, have sex with 1,000 people. I'm saying be chaste, and people try to make that controversial. I say get married, and people try to make that controversial. But in reality, I'm a Christian, and people try to make me being Christian controversial. Like, I don't talk about any really controversial things, but I think the spirit of a lot of YouTube channels is to be negative because people like that. I think sometimes if I allowed like more beef on my channel, because I know, there are podcasts and things like that. There are some channels where that is like more, the vibe. And my vibe here is real laid back and chill. And so I think I could probably, if I were willing to engage some of the people, like the person that contacted me this morning, if I were willing to engage him in a fight, maybe I could get my viewers up, but I don't want my channel to be that. You know, I want you guys to come here when you just want a chill break, to come here and know that it's like going to be a good situation. That's what I want our relationship to be. I want it to be positive and fruitful and like loving. Like that's what I want here. Sir Black, fat's not disgusting. Don't say that. Don't say that. I like guys that are fat. Like that's my preference. I like men that are bigger. And that doesn't have to be muscular. I like men that are spread out. That's my personal preference. So everybody has a different, not that I wouldn't have a problem with like skinny guys, but I think a fat guy is more attractive than a skinny guy. Like if I had to pick one, I would go for the fat dude. Real Cigar said, I got divorced because my ex-wife was terrible with money. No need for both of us to be poor. You couldn't get her in check? That's unfortunate. The revolutionary, that could be true. But here's the thing. The thing is that, and I said this in my last live, I feel that movements like the slut walk and free the nipple is a trip. Free the nipple is like women literally just like going around without shirts on, which I don't advocate. But I feel that is because that regular women are resonating with that because of the fact that um, those attacks are used on them. You know what I mean? I know for a fact because I know women in my everyday life who are beautiful human beings, but who are overly sexualized both by men and women. Women don't like them because they don't like their appearance, and men are sexualized towards them. And at what point does it stop being the woman's problem? Like I said, when I did O'Shea's uh, uh, show yesterday, I didn't have cleavage out, but people still said, I was like pretty much covered, but people were still saying the same thing. So I'm not going to dress in a muumuu or only do my videos from here up so that I can win in a conversation. I think if people are going to come for my physical appearance, it shouldn't reflect on me. It should reflect on that person. And I think that's where I'm going with it. Like I said, I was very saddened when I got that email this morning. I'm not mad at the person. I just was disappointed. Do you know what I mean? I just was disappointed at the conversation. I was disappointed the first time it was brought to me, just disappointed in it. And that's why I'm inspired to do this documentary, because I don't think we all have to go do slut walking, and I don't think we all need to free the nipple. But I do think that we can't equate this to being in a bikini. You know what I mean? I think we shouldn't equate this, because I thought that was so funny. Like women go out to the beach in basically panties and a bra, like regular women. Are they hoes? Do you know what I mean? I don't think people should equate this. I saw a try on haul the other day where the lady was like literally trying on her clothes on camera, like taking clothes off and putting clothes on camera. So I don't think people should equate this conversation that we're having right now and how I look with something like that. I think that that's very extreme. And so I think when we start jumping to extremes like that, because if I were flat chested, nobody would have a problem with what I'm wearing, right? But I'm not flat chested. So then people say you got to cover up because we'll take you more seriously. But why? Why? I'm not on here in a cocktail dress. This dress is knee length with a long cardigan. So the thing is, like, at what point are people responsible for their thought process versus the woman being responsible for not going out of her way so that people won't say bad things about her? Because that's the conversation we're having, right? Are you willing as a woman to go out of your way so that people won't say things inappropriate or do things inappropriate toward you. And I think there needs to be a middle ground, right? I don't think women should just be able to walk out and free the nipple, just breasts everywhere. But I also think that a woman should be able to sit here like I am and not be treated like she has no shirt on. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a medium, there's a middle ground there. There's a middle ground there. And I want to discuss what that looks like. Because I think it's a healthy conversation to have. What else do you guys want to talk about? Who would you embarrass the revolutionary? Who's made you mad? Don't piss the revolutionary off, please. Just leave the revolutionary alone, y'all. Sister Chantel, that's true. That's true. I think that that's the case. But this morning, that email wasn't from, well, I guess, no, I'm not going to say that. This morning, that email was from somebody that I have worked with in the past, which I thought was very hypocritical. I thought, like, you just had me on your stuff. So when he did it, I gave it the side eye, but it's okay. I think it's okay because you know what, you guys? I really do like everybody that I've worked with here on YouTube. I like them. And I see amazing things in all of the people that I've worked with. And that's why I choose to engage them because I see great things in those people. And I love to focus on, and I guess this is where I'm different from some people. I like to deal with people and I pick out what I like about them most. And I focus on that. And I don't think I think the world would just be a lot cooler place. Like if we all did that, I think there would just be a lot less issues. A podcast discussing how married out earn single men with a 44% increase in their income over their lifetime. I don't know what you're talking about, Ray. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, Mr. Sex is sex, right? I didn't see that in the super chat, Mr. because I looked at the comments on the playback because I don't watch the comments during O'Shea's stream. It's just too many comments. But I like to go back afterward, and I always try to answer people's comments in the comment section after his streams. So I didn't see that. I must have missed it. But this is what I'll say. Sex is sex, right? Sex is sex. So you should just abstain from all sex, I would think. Oh, I'm looking at my daughter in my neighbor's picture window. That's weird, right? My neighbor. So I'm looking out my picture window. My neighbor has a picture window. I'm looking at my daughter and the little 3-year-old next door. I really like this neighborhood. I have to tell you, it's a sweet neighborhood. The little baby next door, she was swinging him around and she just sat him down. And now he's like marching around. So cute. So cute. Maximum said, Irene, do you think Black men are dominated by white men? I think not all white men, right? I think the people in the most powerful position now are white men. So are Black men dominated by white men? Sure. But so are Black women. So are Asian men. So are Asian women. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I would necessarily think it to be fair to just say Black men are dominated by white men, because this is universal. Everybody's dominated by white men because white men are running things right now. But that's not obviously every white man. Like, most white men don't have much of any power, or their power is minimal, you know? So, yeah, I guess it depends on the context that you mean in the question. But I think dominance also has two forms, right? There is a physical dominance that a person has over you, and then there's a mental dominance that a person has over you. Yeah, people really pick on Nyla. People make videos about her. I just don't think that's cool. I just don't think it's cool. And I think it's less cool when men do it. You know, like, Nyla is a woman. She is a woman. And so I just think, I don't, in my real life, like, think like in real life, men, do you fight with women in your real life? Just men in the chat. Cause I know there's a lot of you guys in the chat. Cause I have like a 60-40 split between men and women on my channel, to like a 70-30 split, depending on, the analytics for the month. And do y'all fight with women in real life? Like, men that come for Nyla, I just think that's so disgusting, because she's a woman. She's an absolute woman. And in real life, men don't come for women like that. At least no men that I know. So a hater is one thing, but for full-on grown men to be coming for a woman, that's crazy to me. It's very inappropriate. Very, very inappropriate. In a real life, her man would probably beat somebody down. Do you know what I'm saying? So I feel like people come online and they behave in ways that would never be acceptable in real life. But then we try to justify it because it's online. And I just don't see the difference. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, what I was telling you guys happened earlier today. Part of me felt like, why is this man challenging me? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to say, can we do a build? Will you come on my platform to discuss like your views that you posed on O'Shea's show? It's another thing to like try to challenge me like I'm another man. Like, I'm not a man. And in real life, I don't argue with men. I'm not stupid. What do I look like? 5'2", trying to have an argument with a man. I'm not going to do that in a hot way virtually. I'm not going to do that in the real world. So, Ray Alexander, married men earn 44% more than single men in their lifetime. It's called the male marriage premium. That's a major benefit to men who get married. Oh, that's interesting, Ray Alexander. I will look into that. Thank you. Because I have that debate coming up with Ellen, so that'll be useful to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Frantonio, I'm going to tell you something about Hebrew Israelites. They know the Bible. They are obsessed with reading the Bible. And that's why I like talking to them. I know a lot of scripture too. I like talking to them for that reason. But they know a whole lot of scripture. Sir Black, I believe that it's her. I don't go to her social media platforms, but Nyla's done nothing for me to think that that's not her. Do you know what I mean? Even if, I don't know, she has a lot of different pictures, and I think that it's her. She has other social media platforms, so you can always go check out her other platforms and decide for yourself. I'm not on like other social media platforms like that, so I can't say. I don't go to them, but I like Nyla a lot. I really do. I think she's a decent person. I respect that she does what O'Shea does, which is bring varying viewpoints to her channel. And she's been very supportive of me. And so I can't find fault in that. I really can't. Nyla is actually the one that convinced me to take down my thirst trap video, because she's like, Irene, think about, the young women. And I was like, okay. And I actually did that for her, because I actually was very displeased with like a lot of the people talking. But Nyla is she's very sweet in her own way. I know that she has like a very like gruff personality when she's not happy, but I honestly think like she's probably a really sweet person. And that's what I get from her. I just get sweetness and I get intelligence. And so I'm very fond of Nyla, actually. Oh, you don't start arguing? Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm behind in the chat. No, I don't fight women. We don't start arguments with women. No, I've never seen a reason to fight verbally or physically against a woman. That is my point. That's my point. It was weird. Like this morning, it was really weird. I was just like, I had never, like, that was just weird. That was just a weird situation. I was like if we're on a panel, like I've had people pull punches on me on a panel. Um, and that's one thing, right? Because we're there and we're talking and it is what it is. But like to come to my personal space, like to pick up a phone or to come to my home or to send me an email, to like come to my personal space and try that, I was like, and that's where I draw the line. Like, that's where I'm going to draw the line. You know what I mean? You stay ready for Antonio? Okay. Well, we have to do that. Like, I always said I would love to get the Hebrew Israelites on and like do a stream with them or do like Bible battles. Like, I just think that would be so fun. Like, I know that sounds cheesy, but like, I think it would be flippin' awesome, you know? So we have to do that, like Bible battles. Let's see if I can get it together and I can get enough people who are like passionate enough. Cause sometimes I watch like debates. All right, y'all. So it's gonna get corny for some of you guys, but I like to watch debates, like religious debates. I like to watch like Christian Muslim debates or, um, Christian Jewish debates. And so one time there was like in this debate and it was a Christian Jewish debate. And the guy was like, you can see I really like it because I'm getting excited. So the guy was like, what kind of stupidity would be turning the other cheek? In our, real Bible, basically, like in the Old Testament, it says an eye for an eye. And the Christian was kind of stumped and he like went somewhere else. And I was like, no, remember that passage? It's good that a man bear the yoke in his youth. If a man smite thee 7 times, I was like, it is in the Old Testament. And like the scripture came to my mind. I was like, there is literally almost the same exact scripture in the Old Testament. So that's why I think like Bible battles would be fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, you say this, and then I'm like, I know that. And sometimes in my comment section, I do that with Hebrew Israelites. Like they'll say da 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 da, and I'll go, well, what about this scripture? And they'll go, well, what about this scripture? And it's not mean. It's not mean, but it's fun. It's fun to me. Me and my son used to play a game like we would find like people who were like contradictions in the Bible, and then we would go and research it and try to debunk the contradiction. We used to do that when he was younger. I find that kind of stuff fun. I know that's corny, y'all. I know I lost like half the chat because half of you guys aren't Christian, but I really enjoy that. I think it's pretty awesome. Oh, I'll ask him. I'll ask him. I'll WhatsApp him and I'll ask him, Ray. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. King Rise, Hebrew Israelites are strange to me. People are so different. I'm sure there are a lot of types of people that are strange to all of us because that's just part of it. But I think we need to learn to celebrate differences. And you know what I mean? Like, I think it's good. I think when we are challenged, it sharpens us. And so I think that that's good. I agree with you, Marcus. Marcus said on the panel, it's business making interesting content. In real life, it's not cool, though. Exactly. And that was my point. That's actually what I said this morning. I was like, if you want to make a show, if you want to go on somebody else's platform and drag me for the filth, okay. But please just don't come into my personal space and do it. Like, I think that's overstepping. Sir Black, Irene, contact Brother Naquam of the Adam Abbott camp on YouTube. The main speaker is Brother Naquam, the dark-skinned brother with the beard. Oh, you think he would do Bible battles? That would be fun. That really would be. All right, here goes a question. St. Everest, that's a nice name, said, but I want to ask you a question. Due to the Me Too movement, I'm scared of women and thinking of getting castrated to be sexually pure and die a virgin. I think maybe you need therapy. I'm gonna read your troll question, but you need some therapy. You're thinking like the transgenders. You want to start chopping stuff up, inverting things, removing things. That's crazy. Goodness Red Abuse said, did you hear about the missionary who was trying to bring Christianity to the Sentinels Island in coastal Africa and was met with his demise by the native peoples? No. I did not hear of that. Yeah, actually, Sister Chantel, that's something I heard about the Hebrew Israelites too. Like, because early in my channel, I had a Hebrew, and he might still follow. He just doesn't comment as much. I had a Hebrew Israelite that would comment on my channel. And something that I did that I don't know if I'll do on my Patreon or here is I used to do a daily Bible reading, right? So whenever I read the Bible, I always cover out of respect for the content. And so he was saying that too, because he was saying that I've heard two things, like Hebrew Israelites don't feel that white people can be saved, and I've heard like they do feel it. I don't know. Like, I think that with, like, as with every religion, they're like different sects, and like the different sects believe like different things, you know? So some Christians believe you shouldn't wear pants, and some Christians believe a woman's hair should be covered. Some Christians believe you have a heck of liberty in Christ and you can basically do whatever you want. Like, it's all over the place. Watch the Crossline Radio on Thursday at 10. But what is that? Is that here on YouTube? The Revolutionary? I screenshotted your comment so I can make a note of it. But is that here on YouTube? I'm looking at my phone, you guys. I'm looking at my phone. Hold on. Why do I always get so far behind in the comments? I feel like I catch up in the comments and then you guys start typing stuff and then I'm behind in the comments again. I'm like never on time with this life. Oh, it's on YouTube? Okay, thank you. You have to have an atheist in your Bible battles to even everything out. I'll consider that, but I don't know. Like, I think I would have to do something different. Like, I think I would want to do like Bible battles with people who know the Bible. Now, if there was an atheist, because a lot of atheists can quote a lot of the Bible. I don't know that many of them know the Bible, but if I could find an atheist that was familiar with the Bible, I could. But I would probably want to do two versions. Do you know what I mean? One without dissenters, you know, just for the fun of it, you know, because the Bible can be fun, y'all. The Bible's cool. I know people don't think it is, but the Bible's awesome. Um, and then one with like an atheist. But then I would have to make sure like everybody participating would feel comfortable with that, because I felt really bad. For example, I really wanted a liberal thinker on that my one panel, and Jacob came on and he is so amazing. But I also felt bad because I felt like everybody didn't agree with him on the panel, although some people agreed with him in the chat. Some people were really petitioning for him. Ancient Sumerian. He really agreed with Jacob in the chat. I specifically remember that, and he felt like we needed to really listen to him. But I want to make sure, like dissenting opinions on my channel, that they can be dissenting, but I don't want them to feel attacked. And I almost felt like I was worried that Jacob felt attacked, and I've regretted that since then. Like that was my first like organized panel. And I want to be like careful putting an atheist in a room with a bunch of Christians that believe in the Bible, or especially Israelites, because they are very aggressive about scripture. And I don't want them to feel attacked. I want us to have fun with it. So if I could do it and keep it that way, then I would definitely do it. But that's a good idea, King Rise. Like in reality, that's a really good idea to bring an atheist in. Sister Chantel, you're so bad. She said, cross the line is crap on the line. They be talking theory mixed with Bible like the Pharisees in the Bible. That's a view, Sister Chantel. That's a view. I know that people definitely think that. I don't agree with all the Hebrew Israelite teachings, but I also don't know them all. But like I said, I've gone into like back and forth with them. Again, not negative, but I've definitely like done scripture for scripture with them a few times. And I will say, to their credit, they could come with a lot of scripture. But I always go to scripture. Like I say, I'm not the best like pinnacle of Christianity by far, but I always like to go with scripture, because like I feel that's a good defense. Do you know what I mean? And scriptures come to my mind when I get into those battles. That's why I think I would have a lot of fun with that. I would like to get, I'm going to tell you, I would like to get a Hebrew Israelite, Seventh Day Adventist, because they're another group that really get into the Bible, and myself into like a Bible battle. That would be like really fun. Or two Hebrew Israelites, two Seventh Day Adventists, like into a Bible battle, because those are groups that I know like are like excessively read the Bible. I don't know about excessively. I think that's the wrong word, because I don't know that you can excessively read the Bible, but you know what I mean? Like they're very fond of like talking in scripture. Yeah, Letty Pat, I agree. The Bible is filled with great things. The Bible is freaking awesome. I think people don't realize that, but it really is. Hi, Gap Talk Media. King Rise. Yeah, Hebrew Israelites do dress pretty cool, though. I have to say that. The uniform is tight. It really is. I cannot even fault how they dress, because I live for that. They're so organized. They're organized with theirs. They're like the Black Muslims. Like when you see them, you know that it's them. Thank you, Gab. I agree with you. The Bible is pretty awesome. It really is. I know it's not the most popular thing these days, but I think it's pretty awesome. Maxima Black, Irene, do you know millions were killed in the name of Christianity? Yes, but this is what I'll say. I think that people profess to be Christian. A lot of times when we're talking about that, we're talking about the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church don't consider themselves to be Christians. They really don't. if you are a Christian and let's say there's like a mass or something, you can't take mass with them if like you're a Christian. So the Catholic Church don't consider themselves to be Christians. And I think a lot of people associate, although you could be talking about something else. I know most times people are talking about the Catholic Church and they're not Christian. So, but I know it was in the name of Christianity, but they don't even identify as Christians. Like I know individual Catholics might say they're Christians, but like the church philosophy and dogma is not that they're Christian. Yeah, Sister Chantel, definitely. So for example, like when we talk about like speaking in tongues in the Bible and stuff like that, um, my son, he speaks many languages, right? And we know that tongues, like those were unknown languages. And I never considered that gift of tongues could be people who have an aptitude to learn and read multiple languages. And talking to him, he's like, I feel that that's my gift. And I was like, I just never considered it like that. Like, you know, there are people that think if you do like the babbling, that that's speaking in tongues. There are people who strictly believe tongues don't exist. There are people who believe, like me, that tongues is speaking in a language that's not known to you. And when we talk about like fruits of the spirit and like the gifts, spiritual gifts, tongues is one of them. And I think it's the gift of diverse tongues is actually what it is. And I feel like, and my son helped me realize like um, that could be like a person who has an, so because some people are built like that. And he's one of those people where he just picks up language, you know? So yeah, goodness rated. My whole point is that your kids will have you understanding the Bible and new it in interesting ways. I know my girls do. And it's amazing what they pick up and they bring it to me. And I'm like, man, you guys are like really paying attention. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. You know, every time I touch that microphone, there's no sound. Does that happen like every other live though? Am I like literally almost every other live? I lose sound. I'm like really bad when I touch that mic. That's so bad. Y'all, I have so many problems. I have so many technical difficulties. I muted it. Wait, was I talking for like 2 minutes with no sound? Y'all, I was talking for like 2 minutes with no sound. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's so bad. You guys, I'm gonna have to get more professional. I'm gonna have to get way more professional with this. This is awful. So awful. No, you were not alone, QT1. Nobody could hear. No way. He speaks 50 languages? Are you kidding me? Yes, I'll check him out. Are you kidding? Would love to. Yes, I'll interview him if he'll let me. I tried to get Crystal Karazin to interview me, and she basically was like, no. Let me see if I move over, if you guys can see me better, because I'm kind of trying to like work with my natural lighting. Nope. No. Back to where we started. So I tried to get Crystal Karazin, is that her name? I tried to get an interview with her because so many people requested I do one. And because of the fact that I'm Switzerland, no, because of the fact that I collaborate with some pro-Black YouTubers, she thought I wanted to debate her. And I was like, I don't want to debate you. I just wanted to interview her, like nothing negative. So I don't know if she'll change her mind about that, like, or not. She may not, and that's her prerogative. I understand a lot of people are like very negative toward her. I don't personally approve of the glorifying of interracial dating, but I wasn't going to try to do anything negative. So I do hope that she reconsiders, but I don't know. So my point is, yes, I will ask him for a collab. I do ask people for collaborations, but for various reasons, if I can't get a collaboration, there are a lot of reasons for that. And so with Crystal, that was her reasoning. But I did kind of tell her, you know, I wasn't trying to, wow, it got so dark now. So I can't stay over here. You guys can't see me. Hold on. Is this any better? Let me try to look at myself. Okay. I hope you guys can see me better now. So let's try this again. All right. So I'm looking at all your you can't hear me. That's how far behind in the chat I am. I'm still on the can't hear me stuff. You're lip reading, Kevin. That's so sad. Yeah, I think that she was worried about coming on. I'm reading your comments about Crystal. Yeah, I think she was worried about coming on because she thought it would be a hostile environment. But I just would never bring anybody into that sort of situation. So that was unfortunate. I would have really liked that interview. For the same reason that I would like the Tommy interview, or that I enjoyed interviewing Tommy, is because I feel like he was misunderstood. And when I talked to him, that's what I realized, is that he was misunderstood. So I think sometimes when people are controversial, they think there's going to be an attack, but that's like not even my spirit. Like, it's nothing I would do. Ancient Sumerian, what are you talking about? I was just talking about you. It's funny you showed up. I was talking about how you were one of the people that were agreeing with Jacob on that other live stream. I'm doing fine, Dwayne. I'm about to get off of this live because I've been on it for a while. How long have we been together? Let me see. Let me see. We've been together almost 2 hours. Yeah, ancient Sumerian. See, I always try to pay attention to your comments, you guys. And I know that you felt he was making good points. I was talking about before you came, I was talking about you. And I was saying how I felt bad because we were talking about like doing Bible wars and bringing on an atheist, and it made me think of Jacob. And I was like, I felt bad because I felt like it was a lot of pressure on him being the only person to present his viewpoint, and I felt bad because I felt like maybe he felt attacked, and so I didn't know if he had noticed that like some people in the comments, you namely, came to my mind, were in agreement with him. So that I was talking about you. I was talking about you earlier because I told you guys I pay attention to you guys. I really do because I'm just so grateful for all of you guys. Oh wait, are you serious, Sister Chantel? You saw that? I think he's trying to do better, Sister Chantal. I really do think he's trying to do better. But I think we have to like nourish that good side of him because he has a good side. He really does. I don't know, King Rise. People are pretty raw today. They are. Okay, you guys. So with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. I really do appreciate you guys join me for this live. My son is moving. It's it's going places. It's like literally right there. This house has the worst lighting. Like when I try to do stuff in this house, it's terrible. The lights are bad. And despite the fact that my home has a lot of windows, it has the worst possible lighting. I feel like all the windows are in the wrong place. I don't understand it. It's really, really weird. But anyway, hi, Everett. I'm out of here. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.